we had a really good spring, a lot of good work, a lot of great competition.
I love being home. There's nothing like being with my family every single day.
As a team, I mean, we came in every day, put in the work, and from day one till now, it's tremendous improvement.
What's good, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome into yet another episode of the Fitz Take Podcast. I'm your guy, Jamarcus Fitzpatrick, but you know you can always call me Fitz. This man right here is soon to be out of the city of Lafayette, but he's here for a couple of more days. Mr. Elijah Nixon, aka the Pride of Connecticut. Guys, if you're not a subscriber, hit the bell down below and subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to this episode, be sure to follow us wherever you get your podcast feed from, and also follow us on our social media platforms. As you can see, we are standing on the field of what was called Cajun Field, but now it's Our Lady of the Lord Stadium, all that good stuff like that. Places that we ran up and down the sideline multiple times because the Ragin Cajuns just wrapped up their spring football game, the Vermilion and White game, their annual game. They were out here for, what, about an hour and a half, E?
Yeah, hour and a half. You saw some great football, competitive football between the two. What I really liked, and we're going to get into a little bit more, is Dez was really hands-off. He was in the back just watching his team compete. And I like that about with a spring game because at the same time, it gives your assistant time as a coach, but it gives him time to just sit back and analyze of what he's been preaching all spring and see it coming into fruition. And I'm trying to tell you, it was some great competition, Fitz.
No doubt about it, man. So let's look right into things off the bat. Like, you could tell that this was a team that they had been going through these practices. And obviously what we are able to see as media is very limited. We see individual periods. People are always asking, what does the quarterback look like? What is it like? They look good with refs on air. So, this was also our first time to see them in live action. But when you were able to see some of the moments that they had, I point to the defense on the goal line. Hearing guys say, line it up. They line it up, and they stuffed the running back for like a 2-3 yard loss. Like, that is football, and that is about the identity of this team. What was your major takeaway overall from what you saw from the team?
Sampson and Walker Howard. That connection is going to be lethal. You can see it early and often. I mean, when it came down to the goal line, it was a nice goal line snag down here for a touchdown. But then also you saw bits and pieces on second down, third down. Again, the receiver room here at the Cajuns has always been everybody eats. Everybody get a touch. Everybody get catches, yards, and things of that nature. But you can see that these two may have something cooking, and it's going to be a long season for other DBs if it happens the right way.
No doubt about it. And for me, it's about what the identity of this team could be. And I feel like this is going to be a team that is going to be very physical once again. I always point back to when Charles Huff, the former head coach of Marshall, now the head coach of Southern Miss, was talking about UL back in 2021. And he said they're big, physical, and they, want to dominate you in everything they do. And it looks like this team is going to be like that again. They ran the football very well. We saw like Elijah Bill Davis, Zylan Perry, Stephen Blanco, even Hutch Swilly, the former STM running back, get some good carries in there. And that is the philosophy of what they want to be as an offense. And then defensively, they're getting tackles. They're getting in the backfield. They're getting quarterback pressures and things of that nature. So I think that this team could be very physical. I think they will be very physical. And as they prepare to go into the summer phase now, afterwards we talked to Coach Dez, and he talked about like how much spring is not just about the ending of things, but now it's the beginning phase of what they want to be going into the fall. Let's hear from him right here.
Everything builds off of the next, and what I tell them is that you set the floor in spring ball. So you want to set the floor as high as you possibly can coming out of spring, because the work that we're going to do between now and we get on the field for real in August, September, whatever you start the first game is, that's the floor of what we can be. So you want to set it as high as you can, and I believe that. I believe each part of this thing is important. I love the way we set up our spring and off season this year, where it was late. I don't know if there was any other college spring games on May 3rd or not, but I could tell you it was really good for us, and I think our kids bought into it, and that's why anything works, is because you get buy-in.
So you heard Coach Dez right there. And another thing he talked about, and Elijah mentioned it a little bit earlier, was the connection between Walker Howard and wide receiver Shelton Sampson. Obviously, Shelton transferred out from LSU. Walker was there, a part of that class, I believe, with Shelton, or was at least there while, Shelton was on the roster at the same time. I believe it was. I can't remember. A lot of these years are starting to run together. They both were at LSU at one particular time. Walker at LSU, transferred out, goes to Ole Miss. And, Coach Dez talked about how Shelton has had good rapport with all of the quarterbacks, and that is great. But like what we were able to see, like the quick slants, the fade route that you talked about, it just seems like, bro, like this is what we're gonna see at Our Lady of Lourdes Stadium on Saturdays. Like those boys are really about like finding that connection with each other, and they're making it look so seamlessly. Like, what would you say, or how important is it, do you think, for Walker to have somebody that he can build rapport with so early on as he gets ready to transition to the fall?
I think it's important for Walker just as much as important for Shelton. I think both of those guys, you have to have some type of rapport with one another. For Walker to get here, and he's a fresh face, trying to learn some guys. I know Williams was on the team last year. I'm pretty sure they have a connection, but to have a connection with somebody you walk into the door with, it's going to lead you in that right direction that you want to be in. Now for Shelton, for Coach Desimo saying, hey, he has a good rapport with every quarterback, tell you how special Shelton is. Because, I mean, if you have a good rapport with every quarterback, that means probably your catch radius is through this roof.
Mm-hmm.
Because they can throw high, low, behind, wherever it can be, he could make a play. Now, what we also liked about him is, well, what I also liked about him is he could get open. There's some receivers that can't open a bag of chips. This guy can get open off slants, hitches, fade routes. I'm not sure if they do many choice routes, but I'm pretty sure he can do the same thing. So it's very important to see those two build this rapport, because I think that connection can be something that the Cajuns will lean on as the season kicks off.
And by no means is the starting quarterback being named. We're just simply going based off of our assessment. Lunch Winfield had good moments throughout the spring game. Daniel Bill also has. Sam Altman had good moments. But just overall, it feels like Walker Howard's body of work was the best. The job is not won here in the spring. But if he continues to progress at the rate that he is right now, it's going to be his job to lose, in my opinion. And, we talked about it, some of us in the workroom, of how, Walker is in a different position, because coming out of high school at STM, he was the guy, like the number 2 quarterback in the nation, dual threat quarterback, committed to LSU. But now, 3 years later, you were at LSU, transferred out. You were at Ole Miss for 2 years and transferred out. But he's had the opportunity to sit behind the Rookie of the Year and a first-round draft pick in Jackson Dart. So he knows what it takes to be a really, really good quarterback in college football. It's going to be really exciting to see what he can, manufacture with not just Shelton, but the entire offense. He even had a 22-yard scramble. Like, I knew Walker could move, but I was like, yo, like he rolling. And, he even said afterwards, like, I got to go back and watch film. I got to be able to punch that in the end zone. So that shows you how much he holds himself to such a high standard. So afterwards, I think that looking at it, he's going to find a way to, really pour more into the offense and become more of a leader. He talked about being that leader as he goes into the offseason, and I think he's going to do that.
I think so, too. Now, on that run, I was scared. I'm not going to lie to you. Because the quarterbacks was live today. If you didn't know, the quarterbacks were live today. So they
were live all spring from what this is.
Yeah.
So they've been getting hit all spring.
So I'm not going to lie to you. I was scared. I don't know if you know that meme when the dude's doing the fireworks. Oh, Lord, Terry. I felt, reverse, Terry. That's how I felt, man, because he was running, and like I said, they were getting hit all day. But for him to say that he want to finish that run, and I'm pretty sure if this was a game-like situation, he probably would have died for the pylon. I think because it was spring, he probably got out. This is my opinion. He didn't say that. But I think that's what it was. I think he would have dived and probably got that touchdown. So, but that shows you how competitive he is. He wants to get the ball in the end zone every time he touch it, whether it's himself or dishing out to receivers. And I think he's going to be one of those guys that, when we talk about quarterbacks, he probably one of those top Cajun quarterbacks when his career is done. I know there's high expectations, but I think he can be.
No doubt about it, man. Here's Walker Howard and Shelton Sampson talking about the connection that they have between each other after the spring game.
Yeah, I mean, he's an unbelievable player, and I got to spend some time with him a little bit in high school, and, just kind of be able to get here together, both transfers, both trying to prove ourselves, trying to be the guy. And I think he's done an unbelievable job. He's stepped up to the plate. He's done everything our coaches have asked him to do. And, the receivers, he has pushed every single guy in that room. I mean, we have an unbelievable receiver room, and I'm very excited.
I definitely lean on him. He definitely leans on me, and we have that connection. So it was good to see today in live action. For me personally, it was great to just get my confidence back and get to feeling like myself. And as a team, we came in every day, put in the work, and from day one till now, it's tremendous improvement.
I think Shelton's been pretty natural with everybody, to be 100% honest. He's been really, really good for us this spring. But, yeah, I think Walker did a fantastic job today moving the football. He made plays down the field. He operated really well. Certainly, like everybody, there's a couple things that we're going to coach up and do. But, the big thing, you got to move the football. You got to move your team down the field. I've been really impressed with him. I think one of the best things we did this spring was make our quarterbacks live. A guy like Walker and a guy like Lunch, that's a big part of their game. Daniel's more of a pocket guy. So you get more of a true feel for what he is, regardless if they're live or not. But those two guys, it's a part of their game. I'm a little bit partial to that because whenever I played quarterback, we were never live and always felt like I was at a disadvantage because of that. So having three that we felt really confident in, it was good. That was the way we wanted to do it. And today, they were on the money. Shelton does a really good job. He wins one-on-ones. Walker made some great throws. Shelton made some great catches. So between the two of them, it was fun to see that connection starting to happen in some big critical moments, third downs, touchdowns, things like that. That's when players have to show up, right? You gotta make critical plays. We say it all the time. Red zone, gold zone, third downs, it's going to be bang, bang plays. There are no wide open throws. It's got to be elite ball placement. It's got to be contested catches. So it's good to see that in a scrimmage setting like that.
And that was Walker Howard and Shelton Sampson talking about how they, hooked up a couple of times throughout their vermilion and white spring game. Now, overall, we've had a good look at what this team is from the spring game. Elijah, what are some of your thoughts as we kind of look over the schedule? UL is set to open up the season against Rice, which, ironically enough, back in 2022 they were the team that ended the longest-standing nation win streak back in Houston. They beat them, and they did that. So it's not going to be a revenge game as much, but it's like if you know, you know. So they open the season against Rice. Then after that, they're back here at the crib against McNeese. They go to Missouri. They go to Eastern Michigan, and then they start conference play with a championship rematch against Marshall. They're at JMU. Charles Huff and the Southern Miss Golden Eagles come to Lafayette on October 18th. They've got Troy, South Alabama, Texas State, Arkansas State on the road, and then back home to close out the year against ULM. So just when you hear that a little bit, what expectations do you think are laid out for this team based on what we saw today?
I think we're going to have huge expectations for this Cajun team. Now, you play football, I played football. You're not supposed to overlook anybody.
No.
But I am because we don't play for them. So we're gonna talk about just the teams that I think that's gonna give them a handful. You got James Madison, you got Missouri, of course. I think Rice will give them a handful, and I think Southern Miss will give them a handful, and that's only because everybody who left Marshall either went to the draft or Southern Miss. So I think with those four teams, that's going to be my pinpoint of how far this team could go. Now, with that being said, I think they could beat Rice. Now, Missouri, I'm not sure. I think they could beat Eastern Michigan only for the simple fact that you've seen them beat somebody like Wake Forest last year and the year before. They were toe-to-toe with Minnesota. So I think they could beat Eastern Michigan. Now, with that being said, I think that Southern Miss is going to be, to me, their toughest challenge in that Western Conference. And I only say that because, again, a lot of those teams a lot of that team that won the Sun Belt Championship last year transferred to Southern Miss. And I think that's what's going to set that apart. Now, I don't know how they're looking at it as a revenge game. I will look at it as a revenge game. I know it's not the same Marshall team, but pretty much is in a different uniform.
Yeah.
I will look at it as a revenge game only for the simple fact they came here and they beat the Cajuns pretty convincingly here in the Sun Belt Championship game. So I will look at that as Des, and I'll have that circled. But also, on that note, I think that this is a Sun Belt Championship team. I think this is a bowl team, and if things shape the right way, who knows, a playoff team. So I think they can probably walk away with one or two losses. But I think this Cajun team is the real deal in the Sun Belt Conference.
No doubt, man. I think this team goes as their defense will go. We know what they have on the table offensively. We've talked about Walker Howard. We've talked about the run game. We've talked about the receivers that they have. The offensive line seems to be gelling well together. But these guys are going to go as the defense goes. Jordan Lawson talked to us afterwards. He's a veteran here. He knows what to expect. He talked about when they were on the goal line and how they lined it up and they made stops and how important that is into building the identity of what they want to be as a team. Offense sells tickets, but defense is what's going to win you championships. The last championship they won in 2021, they had a phenomenal defense. I mean, you had Andre Jones, you had Zion Hill-Green, you had Chauncey Manac, who's now coaching on the staff. So many other guys that I'm missing the names. Mekhi Gardner, that eventually went on to play in the NFL for a short stint with the Eagles. Like, you had so many different guys defensively that made that team so special. So if they can put the pieces together defensively, this team is going to compete for a championship. I think the game that is going to be the biggest for them is going to be that Missouri game. Missouri's not going to be the same team that they were last year, but they were ranked in the top 25. You can't overlook that. They did have Luther Burton and Brady Cook on the team last year. We don't know what the roster looks like. We haven't been keeping up with them, but you can't overlook that, right? And then you got to go up there and do that. So you're going to be in an SEC environment, and you're going to be playing against a team that a year ago was in the top 25. If you get that victory, or even if you play them closely, man, you're talking about being a very scary team, being a contender for, a playoff spot, being a contender for a championship in the Sun Belt. That is very much on the table. It's going to be exciting, man. The days are dwindling down as it gets closer to August 30th, and it's going to be fun, man. So any last thoughts that you got about the Ragin Cajuns?
No, man, I'm just excited to see, like you just said, defense win championships. I'm big on that, but I'm excited to see how this offense goes, especially with who I think will be under center with Walker Howard. And I think that with him and a couple of these guys, a receiver, and Elijah Bill Davis, who, you got that name, man, for a reason, dog. Now I'm only messing. I didn't name you, so I don't have a problem with that. But again, I think you're a skilled back there, and I know you probably be splitting some carries because they love to do that in this offense, and there's nothing wrong with that. So I had my expectations for them is to win the Sun Belt championship. They was at the brink of it last year, and I think they could do it this year for sure.
No doubt about it. So, guys, that's going to wrap up yet another episode of the Fitz Take Podcast. If you've made it to this point in the video, be sure to smash that like button. Be sure to comment underneath this video. Share it with all of your friends. But most importantly, be sure to subscribe to the channel as it continues to help us grow this thing. If you're listening to it, be sure to follow us wherever you get your podcast from: Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Amazon Music. And also follow myself and Elijah on our social media platforms and my production company, One Way Productions. They will all be linked down in the description of this video on YouTube. Signing out for Elijah Nixon, I'm up Jamarcus Fitzpatrick from Our Lady of the Lord Stadium. We'll see you guys next time.